Hello, Shiny Lights. This is an episode 2 of Spirited Conversations, and we're here today with Zilka Davey, who has just returned from a week-long mediumship retreat in the Dandenongs with UK mediums Tony Stockwell and Lynn Probert and Natalie Walker. And it's an amazing retreat. It's kind of like our own version of Hogwarts, isn't it, really? Yeah. And I've been for a couple of years now, and she's just come back. So we're going to talk to her about what she received out of it, what her takeaways were, especially for a new person entering into mediumship, and her advice for anyone who might want to start charging. So let's chat to Zilka. Thank you so much for agreeing to hang out and have a chat today.
That's all right.
Yeah, and you're all rugged up because you're in Ballarat.
Yes, it's freezing.
Freezing. Oh no. So we were talking before we started recording, about the takeaways and what your, what your big kind of aha moments, which there would have been many, right?
Yes.
So, and you were talking about the main thing you learned about, the effect of your physical body when you do this kind of work. Do you want to explain that? Because that was fascinating.
Yeah. So one of the things that all three of the UK tutors were talking about was this idea that mediumship works through our nervous system. So our nervous system is made up of electricity.
Yeah.
I happen to be talking to my ex-partner who is working in electrical engineering, and even though he doesn't even know anything much about mediumship, is not interested so much, he said to me, oh, well, that makes sense, because when you bring two electrical fields together, they can influence each other. And he just saw that all from
a purely electronic point of view. And when you think about how our nerves fire off, the synapses and in our brain is electrical, and we've got to keep hydrated so the brain works, and we're just a big electronic field in a way.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. So if that means that if spirit's traveling through our electrical system, our nervous system, that's how they can communicate through that. And it can also mean that you might feel drained at the end of the day, especially if you've done a few readings, because you've basically literally had your physical body affected.
And did you feel like that, knowing that info?
I didn't feel drained during the course so much. It was
because it's on this big high, like yeah.
It was really the afterwards feeling, but during the course I was fine. However, it really helped me to understand things like when I get sensations in my body, like the feeling of how the person passed, or the feeling of what foods they liked to taste or eat, or so I get those feelings in my body, and that really helped. In fact, one reading I did, we were told to get the feelings in our body. Just that was one of the exercises, and that one comes more naturally for me anyway.
Yeah,
I had a spirit come through that just kept sweeping, this sweeping sensation, and they were sweeping ashes, and I got the word ash, and I felt like I was sweeping ashes, and I felt like I wanted to even cough up and choke on those ashes, and I couldn't move past that until the sitter confirmed that this woman was a scullery maid and worked with cleaning out chimneys for her whole life. So but the feeling of the sweeping sensation was in my body, and
yes. And did you find sometimes that you were even doing the motions and not really, and then suddenly you're going, what am I doing with my hand? Oh, yeah. That's interesting, isn't it? When I've had that too, or I've done a motion, like I thought I had somebody that played sport, and I'm not a sporty person, but I suddenly did this movement. I thought, oh, that's cricket. And then, he was someone who was mad for cricket. And so when there's a really good blend like that, when the person from the spirit world comes in so close, they do influence even how your body goes. So they're influencing it through the electrical, through your nervous system, which fires the muscles, which kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
sometimes we don't actually know what we're doing until we kind of, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So that's like a scientific validation of what's happening.
Yes. And I like that because I have to deal with people who are scientific around me. So it's good to be able to explain it that way.
And understand it too in terms of self-care. So if you know you've done a lot of work and you're working psychically or mediumistically, to know that your nervous system's been, and that's certainly for me, if I've done a platform or something, there's that, and then you've just got to down the next day. Yeah. Cool. I love that. That was your takeaway, one of your main ones from the week?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. And what was the most fun exercise that you did?
Oh, well, this week they were working a lot with blending psychic work with mediumship. So they wanted us to see them as something that complements each other, not separate, and that you always need to use some psychic work, even if you're not planning to do a psychic reading, because the second your sitter comes into the room, even if they're wanting pure mediumship, which apparently is not very often, it's mainly they want a combination. Even if they were just saying, I only want to work with mediumship, you still have to be receptive to how to formulate your words so that you're being sensitive to how they're feeling on that day. So you don't want to be completely blocked off from that, so that you could give a sensitive reading and compassionate. And
yes.
Yeah.
And I think last year Tony talked about the need of the sitter, and that was really important, wasn't it? And that's what you're saying. You've got to tune into what is foremost in their mind, what they've come for, what brought them here. And it might not be because I want to speak to Auntie Betty as much as something's going on as well.
Yeah.
Because if you don't address that, it's not really going to be satisfying, is it?
No. So there was a lot of talk about, is your sitter satisfied? And you could really feel it. Like they asked us to stop, pause, go to the sitter's heart. Have you satisfied their need? And you could really feel when you hadn't done
Really?
that.
So tell us about that, because that's fascinating.
Yeah, so that was one exercise where that was the point of it. Lynn ran this one and she said, okay, at the end of each sitting, when you think you've come to the end, then have a feel into their heart and go, okay, have I satisfied their need? And if you're not sure, she said you should be sure, but if you're not, you can ask them, is there something else that you wanted me to address, or those kind of things. However, she said you will feel it usually, and I did. So I felt through this lady, and I went,
what did it feel like?
I could just feel like an empty, like
a meh kind of.
Yeah, like you're not
it's all right, but yeah.
And I mean, I had got to some of the more heart feelings in that reading, so she was a bit teary and all of that, so I knew I had touched her in some ways. But
you made her cry. Awesome.
Yeah, there was just one more thing, and it was, it was a financial thing, and I went, it's finances, and I went into that, and she was like, yep, I wasn't going to say, but yes. And so
awesome. Because so often we get, certainly the way I was trained is that I actually ask now, but isn't that great? I'm a psychic, I shouldn't have to ask, right? So you feel into, have I done a good job? And that's a good metric for measuring if you have, isn't it? Because so many times people rely on external feedback and they rely on the client telling you you've done a good job, but how do we measure our own success ourselves? That's a perfect way. And that's Lynn Probert you were talking about before, wasn't it? She's lovely. She's like a big hug.
She's like a motherly energy.
She's just gorgeous. Isn't that that's a great takeaway, and that's going to set your readings apart, because you're doing your own checks and balances. Awesome. And then you've got to use your psychic ability for that, because there's no other way, is there?
Yeah.
And when you were assessing the need, when they first sat down, did you do any kind of work where, like, I'm just going, okay, I feel this reading's going to be about, or I feel this reading's going to go this way?
they told us also to be wary of feeling into it before the sitter comes, or coming up with your own thoughts beforehand about how you think it's going to go, because they said there's something called a memory disconnect. So where you say, for example, you're driving there and you feel like you've got one of their people spirit with you. He said, I think it was a few of the tutors said this: don't tune into that at that point, because then you're going to be stuck in relying on memory.
The memory and not the contact. Yeah. That's true for mediumship. Yeah, very much so. It's like, here's one I prepared earlier.
Yeah.
And they might not be there then. They might have been there with you in the car, but they might not be there when you need them. And yes.
It won't be right. And it's like if you've told Google Maps to, go somewhere and then you've gone offline and you're just relying on that, but then you've gone a different direction. Google Maps is going to be confused if you're not online, and it's the same with some.
Yeah. That is so true. Yeah. No, and that makes you, that's even scarier, because then you've got to stand up there with nothing, basically. Like, you just got to rely on what you've got, which is doing it without a net sometimes. But yeah, isn't that awesome? I like the standard that they deliver at those courses. Like, they're really high standard, aren't they?
Well, there is, and then there's also the beginners. So I was because I was told for a few years, don't go along because you'll, it's for advanced people. But actually there were some absolute beginners there, and they catered really well to those beginners, because the feedback from the beginners was amazing. They were so enraptured by their tutor, who was Diane Thomas. She was beautiful, and
she's amazing.
Those guys, and they were in awe of her. So I think to think that it's only for advanced students is not true.
It's not. And because they do a little bit of a sorting hat, don't they, in the beginning, which is kind of fun.
I mean, they may not get it right, and I think else they didn't, but I came in with no expectations at all. I had no idea what level I was. I had no idea what they would put me in. Didn't really care. So
no, because you end up where you end up, don't you? Yeah. And the food's pretty amazing.
Oh, it's non-stop too.
I know. And there's morning and afternoon teas. Like, I'll just have one more scone, Yeah. It really is sensational. Yeah. Awesome. So what would be your number one tip for anyone who's thinking of going to one of these week-long retreats in the Dandenongs with Tony Stockwell?
I'd say come without expectations. Just come with yourself and with an open mind, and be ready to laugh a lot, because Tony Stockwell is
and dance too.
Very, he's hilarious. He pushes the boundaries, and he gets he pushes them a little bit too much, maybe in some ways, with his humor. But I mean, I'm quite okay with that. I just wondered about some of the people around me, whether he was just a bit overboard for some people, but I think he was great for me. I loved that humor. And and Natalie, she's hilarious as well. I had her for the weekend. It was just hilarious, and I don't even think she was aware of how funny
she is. Yeah, they're certainly not stuffy, are they?
No. And just constantly laughing. I felt like we were doing, and that kept the energy up. And
it does. And spirit's light, and spirit's fun, and the lighter the atmosphere, the easier it is to work.
I think so. So come without expectations, come with a sense of humor and openness. Take time out if you need it. So some of the things are optional. So there's group work, and then there's optional work. So and
the nighttime ones are optional, aren't they, sometimes?
Yeah. So I mean, if you can't cope with staying up, it is long days. It's 12-hour days.
Yeah.
So it's
you are working, yes, the whole time. That's true.
The whole time too.
I know. Yes. And you do eat. Like, suddenly I thought, I cannot fit this food in, but somehow you do.
so good that you
Yeah.
just don't want to say no.
Oh, I know. I ended up going for a walk every morning just to kind of, just to ground, and also to just keep my body moving, because otherwise it was
very, hour and a half lunch break, so that you did have that time for yourself.
You did have lots of time, and the space around is gorgeous too. You can go off and have your own little moments as well, which is really nice. And now you mentioned before when we were talking that just about everyone you met was a professional reader, in fact that they were charging for their readings. And how did that influence you?
Because I've just been so I only just restarted in November last year. So
right. When we started working together.
Yeah, when we started working together, I haven't done anything except sit circle, and that was a couple of years ago, and I hadn't thought to charge. And then I was doing the free readings in the psychic playground, and and I've been doing some other free readings, and then I realized everybody's already charging and they're doing professional stuff, and I thought, hang on a minute, what am I doing? I'm just doing all this stuff for free, and I guess it's a confidence thing, thinking, oh well, I've got to keep practicing, and I still do feel like I need to keep practicing.
I think we all do. Yeah. Stop.
But yeah, I think I'll be less afraid of charging now, I think. And
did it feel like a big step up? Was it like, because when you do start to charge, there's that feeling of, okay, I'm putting myself out there. How did that feel?
A little bit, but I thought, gosh, if you want to keep coming to courses like this, you got to
yes,
earn some money to put behind it. So
yeah, that's true. And so you started off in did you say Fiverr? Is that where you?
Yeah, I've started off in Fiverr. Started off there in December, but that was, really literally $5 reading.
Yeah, right. But you were comfortable with $5. It was about putting a price, not how much, but a price.
The idea of it feels like you got this like added responsibility then, and to begin with, that sort of felt like bumping myself offline, because I felt like, oh gosh, I know these people can probably afford $5. However, I just felt like, now there's expectations of me, and then I couldn't work psychically very well.
Isn't that interesting?
I think I just have to let go of that and just see it as the fun side of it, which is how I was seeing it in the playground. It's just fun. And so still seeing it as fun and not worrying about the price attached, because really that's, it is work, and so I can't just see it as a hobby now. I think I need to start seeing it as work. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting now? So you've changed the way you framed it up, and you've faced the expectation, and that whole, oh my God, they're paying, therefore I have to be perfect. I have to know everything, all that, which. Yeah, it comes up, but you're actually the same person that you worked 10 minutes before you decided to charge. So, yeah, wow, because that is a journey to start charging, isn't it? A personal journey more than anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So, what would your advice be for someone who's thinking about charging?
I'll just still think of it as having fun, and Tony talked about people charging for the maddest things in the psychic world, because there's a lot. His talk was a lot about ancient arts, and we were all from in the past. If we were born 500 years ago, we would have probably still been as we are now with this psychic ability. However, we would have framed ourselves as something different. We would have channeled our energy, psychic work, into something different. And so he said there's somebody, for example, in the UK charging £300 for to read a cracked egg. Like they basically just crack an egg in a glass and say, all right, I can read the egg. And he said, and that's that is an ancient art connected to when they used to read the gizzards of animals.
Augury, yeah.
But he said now it's more like people are just fascinated, and they're reading, they're doing psychic reading. They may or may not be using the egg as a thing, but he said £300 just to crack an egg. It seems like a lot. So really, it's just trusting in your own inner self and ability, rather than what you are doing. You know what you're doing, and you've always known what you were doing. It's just that confidence factor, that letting the human not rise. Tony talked a lot about your inner human rising when you're feeling good.
I love that. Yeah.
He said that when he's reading in front of an audience, if the people don't respond straight away, his human starts to rise, and that's all those negative self-doubts and all of that start rising in his head. And so he actually named it, and as soon as an audience member was slow to respond, he'd go, quickly, my human's rising, and they because then he would
he made himself real and vulnerable, and people realize that he's just a person. Yes.
So, human. So even someone like him still has doubts and a lot of self-doubt. So and
he's been doing since he was 19, so that's a good 30 odd years and he's still human. Exactly. And isn't that lovely to know that we can still be vulnerable, we can still have those feelings, that I don't think we ever rise beyond them, because we are human. Isn't that lovely? He has a lovely way of normalizing everything, doesn't he? Like we all go through the same journey, no matter where we are.
Yes. And he did talk about us being not normal. So,
yes. Thank God for that. Who wants to be normal? No, isn't that awesome?
He's really just saying that we all might think that we're in our own bubble and looking at everyone else going, oh, they're not normal. But he said, really, it's you. We're all not normal. So,
Awesome. So where do you plan to take this now? What's your next step?
I feel as though I need to set aside one day a week where I'm at home for readings, because I didn't meet a single person there who didn't say that their readings were not coming in. Like, they're all saying, oh, I'm booked out. I'm booked out. That was the general consensus. Or I'm doing as many readings as I want to do, which is, for some people that was 3 a week, and for others that was a lot more. And they were getting enough work. So I think my other line of work, I need to I can do that. I can specify that I'm not available on a particular day. It's just that I've always been panicked that, oh gosh, but then I'll lose income if I don't say I'm available every day. But it seems to me that I could make the same kind of income if I just set aside that one day. And I think my soul or my spirit would thank me to just be working on that.
That's where you feel pulled to go now after this week.
Yeah, so I just need to pick a day, I think, and just say that's the day that I do that. And I'm pretty sure that the other work will probably even drop off on that day if I've set aside.
It has a funny way of happening like that, doesn't it? The trust factor comes up again. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I was so keen to speak to you. It's fresh. I mean, you've only been back, a day or two?
Couple of days,
from the Dandenongs, from this lovely world that you've been enveloped in the spirit world, and in great care of the UK tutors of Tony and everyone that was there with him. So thanks a lot for hanging out. Thanks a lot for being part of Spirited Conversations, and I look forward to seeing you and chatting to you again.
Yeah, it'd be great.